Even though I run a horror channel, I have never professed to knowing absolutely everything about horror movies or claiming that I have seen every single horror movie that has ever existed. And if you are familiar with my channel, you'll know I tend to dwell in the lesser known indie horror sphere compared to like the big hyped movie. Occasionally there's a little bit of a crossover because there's always going to be big hyped movies that I want to watch. But today, I feel like I'm exposing myself a little bit because there are some huge horror movies that I still have never seen. So I'm gonna make a compromise with you guys here within the Horde because I often do polls and ask for your opinions on things. So I have picked 10 incredibly popular horror movies or like franchises that I have never seen before, and I'm exposing them today. But the deal is, whichever one of these movies gets the most noise and hype around it down in the coffin section 6 feet below the video, I will watch it for next Monday's review video. So if there is something on this list that you think that I absolutely need to watch, sound off down below, and you never know, I might actually watch it for next Monday. If you're new here, I'm Hannah, but I go by Hordes online, and if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, and on Saturdays, I talk about the Blair brothers' Dragula Titans at the moment. So let's get on to exposing myself with the very first entry of these 10 popular horror movies that I have never seen.
Bad can it be? Bad.
Shall we start with a big one? I have never seen Scream from 1996. I have never seen anything from the Scream franchise. Now hear me out, hear me out. Like everybody who ever has been on the internet, I have seen clips from the original Scream movie. And like everybody that's seen clips from the original Scream movie, I know who Ghostface is in the original Scream movie. I know who is under the mask. And for me, part of the slasher movie experience is trying to work out exactly who it is under the mask as you go along, because sometimes it's glaringly obvious who a killer is going to be, and sometimes you're like, huh, didn't see that one coming. But when you know, because it's been spoiled for you, it's not going to be the same viewing experience as somebody who knows, like, who is under the Scream mask in this case. And I hate that this movie has been so wildly spoiled for me, because I know that there is such a history with this movie and how it has influenced other movies of its time, like I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legend. It's just, I feel like I'm not gonna have the same experience watching this one as somebody who does not know all about the twists and turns of this movie.
There's no spoilers!
Because of this, I've never felt the urge to be like, you know what, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch Scream today. Plus, Scary Movie also exists, and Brenda Meeks is one of the best characters to ever exist in horror. Come for me, I don't care. And putting Brenda Meeks in any horror movie would immediately make any horror movie better. Don't go in there! The next entry in horror movies that I have never seen. I have never seen the Halloween trilogy that starts in 2018. Now, I have, in my defense, seen every Halloween movie from the original all the way and including H2O. I have seen more than my fair share of Michael Myers movies at this point, and no, I haven't seen the Rob Zombie ones either, because, I'm sorry, there's only one, like, Laurie Strode, and that is Jamie Lee Curtis. So, I have no interest whatsoever in Rob Zombie's ones. And don't they try and take a sympathetic approach to Michael Myers? Like from what I've heard, and I hate that. Like, I hated in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre when they tried to give Leatherface a really sympathetic backstory. Just let the bad guy be a really brutal bad guy. There's certain franchises that I am like, this just isn't for me. I understand exactly why they are for somebody else, but for me, Halloween and the Friday the 13th franchises are just not for me, and I have made peace with this. I'm sure that there are people out there that feel the same way that I feel about those franchises, like about my favourite franchises, about Saw and about Chucky / Child's Play. I get it. Like, we're all allowed to like different things. I think I've just got to a point with the Halloween movies where I am no longer interested in the character of Michael Myers. The second they were like, he is a baby that's born into a cult and they're called Thorn. And then we got that horrible mask in H2O. I was like, I think that this is the time where I call it quits with Michael Myers and the Halloween series.
I said what I said!
I have never seen The Omen from 1978. Now, I am going to tell a little bit of a story to go with this one because I think a lot of people will be able to relate to this. Little Hordes, one night, we're talking 7, 8 years old, could not sleep, and in her room had one of those box TVs like we all did back in the late 90s. And I'm now going to stop talking about myself in third person. So I couldn't sleep and I turned on the TV with the volume on basically so low, there was no point in really having the volume on at all. And this was the era in the UK, if you are around my sort of age or a little bit older, of Eurotrash. Like, Eurotrash would normally be on TV at like 11 till 12 or 11:30 till 12 on Channel 4. But this particular day, it was not Eurotrash on TV, and it was a documentary, and they were talking to celebrities that I do not remember who, about horror movies that they found scary, and then them explaining why they found these movies scary. So somebody was like, I find The Omen, the original Omen from 1978, to be the scariest horror movie ever. And then they proceeded to show the clip where the truck crashes into the wall and the pane of glass on the back of it goes flying off the back and decapitates a man, like head clean off his shoulders. And it was at this point that Little Hordes decided, I'm never going to watch that movie, thank you very much, and turned the TV off and went back to bed. Like, we're talking scarred at like 7 and 8 years old. And while I know that this movie is not going to affect me in the same way now as a fully grown adult as it did back when I was a kid, but I kind of can't forgive The Omen for scarring little me, thinking that like every time it was the Final Destination thing before Final Destination. You know the scene in the second one with all the logs on the truck? It was that, but every single time I saw a pane of glass on something, instant visions of decapitation. So thanks to The Omen. No thank you, that's why I've not watched it.
Oh, that's terrible. Thank you, my boy.
The next movie on my list is, I have never seen anything from the Conjuring franchise, starting with The Conjuring from 2013. And this is because I cannot stand Ed and Lorraine Warren, and I know that there are people out there who worship the ground that these two fraudsters walk upon. But I know, like, they have so much controversy that surrounds their legacy that I wasn't interested in the franchise to begin with. And then as I got a little bit older and found out about all of the stuff that went on with them in their career and how they were religious nut jobs who claimed that every time that they came to something, somebody was possessed by demons because they didn't believe in the Bible, and they exploited a lot of like innocent people who were simply struggling with mental health issues, and they made books out of this, and they were just snake oil merchants, in my opinion. There's a whole blog that I found that basically dissects everything that went on with them that is like shady and controversial, and I will leave it linked in the description bar below. But I get that Ed, like, Warren is no longer alive, but the second he died, the number of people who they co-wrote books with that came out and said, yeah, I was told, just make it up, make it sound more interesting. I don't want to, I'm not giving my money to their estate now that they have both gone, and that's just kind of how I feel about it. Like, I don't want to support people who, are portrayed in a movie as being, like, sweet and lovely and completely, like, dedicated to each other, and then you find out in the real life that he had started dating a 15-year-old that, it's that levels of scummy.
You're a bad, bad man.
The next movie is I have never seen It from 2017, meaning I've also not seen It Part 2. And this is every single horror fan happens to have a horror movie that they saw when they were far too young. And for me, that movie is It from 1990. And Tim Curry has scarred a generation because him as Pennywise absolutely scarred the hell out of me. I watched this movie when I was probably 11, 12, and I get that that's a little bit older, but like, I was the same age as the supposed kids in the town of Derry that Mr. Tim Curry was coming after, that, you know, Stephen King had written about. So when the new It was announced, I was like, no thank you. No, this is something that has scarred me scarred me to the core, and I don't want to partake in this again. And I also need to admit, which is something I've not admitted to here on my channel before, I don't like clowns. I don't like clowns at all, with the exception being like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Don't like clowns. Don't like clowns. I've never liked clowns. There's different branches of going off of me not liking people dressed in certain costumes and things, but I don't like clowns. Me and clowns are never going to be BFFs. So the idea of a clown that can turn himself into a fucking spider, no thank you, absolutely not. And also, thanks to John Wayne Gacy, there is no such thing anymore as a friendly clown. They don't exist. Like, he ruined clowns for absolutely everybody, because now, the minute you see a clown in any movie, your first thought is, I'm going to die. I'm going to throw up, and then I'm gonna die! The next movie that I have never seen is The Blair Witch Project from 1999. This is the movie, if you want to punish me or you don't like me, this is the movie that you make me watch, because I have a love-hate relationship with found footage movies, and that is, they like to make me try and like them, and every time I hate them. It's that kind of like relationship that we've got going on here. The odd exception that I have is I really like The Bay, I like the Poughkeepsie tapes, I like Horror in the High Desert. If you are like a mockumentary style found footage, I am far more interested in actually watching you. But me and found footage, it is probably the genre that I watch the least, because it's also the genre that I enjoy the least. And and Gonjiam Haunted Asylum as well. That's a great one. But I, not being a fan of found footage, do not think for a second that the supposed original found footage movie is going to be this thing that sways me in their favour. I mean, Heather Donahue won a Golden Raspberry for The Blair Witch Project for Worst Actress of the Year. So that also is not going in this movie's favour. The next movie that I have never seen is The Babadook from 2014. Call me crazy, but anything that has got a name like The Babadook it's not scary to me from the get-go. And this is coming from somebody who actively watches all the Puniverse movies when they were coming out. I've been there for Blood and Honey 2, Bambi the Reckoning, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, been there for all of them. But there's just something about The Babadook that I do not, like, find scary at all. Like, it's a top hat and a cape and a face that looks like it should be in, like, Where the Wild Things Are. When this movie first came out back in 2014, I remember there being this hype around it and people saying like, oh my god, it's the scariest movie of the year, it's so terrifying. And I was like, really? This guy? The guy that, you know, really? Like, I don't understand how The Babadook is supposed to be the scariest movie that came out in 2014, because you know what else came out in 2014 that scarred a generation? Tusk. Now, Tusk, I can understand people being like, oh, that movie messed with me, but not this. Not this guy.
And yesterday,
I can hear the sharpening of pitchforks for this next one, because I have never seen The Lost Boys from 1987. And I know, I haven't seen what is considered to possibly be the best vampire movie of all time. I haven't seen it, I haven't. And in my defense, before I started my channel, I'd occasionally dabble in 80s horror, but it wasn't something that I like actively sought out in the way that I do now. And while The Lost Boys has been on my list for technically years, I have just never got round to it. And it's one of those movies where I also seem to have avoided spoilers about this one And I don't know how. The only thing that I know about The Lost Boys is that at one point, the guy with the bleach blonde hair, I believe he's called David, eats worms out of a Chinese takeout carton, and that the kids at some point hang upside down from a bridge, because that's the poster, and we have all seen that iconic image. I don't know, how to, not make people hate me on this one, because I know that this movie is so beloved by everybody that has seen it, and I'm sorry, I just haven't seen it.
Electric chair.
The next movie on my list is Cabin in the Woods from 2011. I love a meta horror, and I love a movie that is prepared to point out the stereotypes and the stupid things in horror and actually make you use them within its movie. And this movie has been described as nostalgic but modern and classic and all of these things, and I'm like, I should probably like this movie. However, in the past 15 years, how many things have you seen that have said, oh, I have been inspired by Cabin in the Woods? And I'm like, am I going to enjoy this movie in the same way, or am I going to watch it and be like, oh, this reminds me of this movie, and this reminds me of this movie? It's a bit to compare it to a video game, it's a bit like Half-Life 2. So many things have taken inspiration from Half-Life that if you went and played Half-Life now, would it be the same experience? Because you'd be like, this has drawn inspiration from this and this and this. And that's just how I feel about Cabin in the Woods. Am I going to watch this and have the same experience as somebody who hasn't seen 20 things that claim to have the same inspiration?
Different, but same.
And the last movie on this list is the one that I think most people may revolt over, and that is, I have never seen Terrifier. I've said it. I've never seen Terrifier from 2016. I'm sorry. It's clowns again. But in my defense, I have seen All Hallows Eve, the short anthology that Art the Clown originally comes from. But it's like with Pennywise, I don't like clowns. I don't like clowns at all. But I have a feeling that I would kind of like Terrifier, because it's got basically no plot from what I've heard about the first one, and it's just lots of gory killing, and I love gory killing. That's my, it's part of my brand. And I don't know if anybody else feels the same way about this. The first one came out in 2016. The second one then came out in 2022, and we were told, oh, there's going to be a third one, which immediately made me go, okay, I won't watch the first and the second ones, because the third one's going to come out. I'll watch it in time for, I'll catch up for it by the time the third one comes out. And then the third one came out in 2024, and they were like, there's going to be a fourth entry. And I was like, there's no point in me watching 1, 2, and 3 now when we don't know when 4's going to be coming out. I hate waiting for horror movies to come out when they are sequels or entries in a franchise. I would much rather sit down and binge all the the previous entries in a franchise before the last one comes out, when we know it's going to be the last one. Does anybody else do this, or is this just me? But clowns, I don't like clowns. I don't like clowns. So there you have it, 10 horror movies or franchises that I have never seen. And as a horror YouTuber, some of you are going to be like, how the hell have you never watched any of these? But like I said, sound off in the coffin section down below and tell me which one of these 10 entries you think that I need to fix immediately. And I will review that movie for next Monday's video. I'm not saying that I am never going to watch any of the movies on this list. I may change my mind down the line and be like, you know what, I'm going to watch every single one of them on this. Probably not Blair Witch Project, and I'm going to be honest about that one, unless you force me to watch it. But you never know. We'll see what wins on Monday, and I have a thought on what I think it's going to be a tie between, but I'm going to keep that to myself for now, and I will let you know what I thought would win in next week's video. So If you would like to know where else you can find me, I am also over on Instagram and Letterboxd at Hordes of Horror, where I post every single horror movie that I watch, not just the ones that I talk about here on YouTube. But speaking of YouTube, I'll be back on Friday, and this time it's Halloween, and I will be in my full Halloween costume on Friday because it is time for a second round of do I think that I could survive these horror movies, featuring horror movies that you all left me on the comments section from the last video, with a few extras that I have thrown in for good measure. So, until next time, bye. A special thank you though to my regenerators here within the Horde for their support over on Patreon.